What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again today with another episode for Dragon Ball Legends. It has been a little while, you guys. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I've been kind of bored of this game. I haven't been playing it too much. But with that being said, you have nothing to worry about because I have still been keeping a very close eye on the relevance of characters and the metas in the game. And now today we're going to be updating our monthly-ish tier list and team guide for the game. So that's going to be today's video. I'm going to try and streamline it so it's not necessarily as long as some of my previous tier list videos. There's just so many characters in the game now, you guys, that it's getting to be a little bit overwhelming. So we can't spend quite as much time on each individual one. So without further ado, let us go ahead and jump into the subject matter of the day. We will cover the tier list here first, and then we can jump over to the team guides, because they haven't really changed too much since characters kind of just release in little waves here. So, starting at the top of the tier list, we do have Super Vegito. If you guys are playing PvP right now, I'm sure you're very well aware of how prevalent the fusions meta is in the game. You'll see them like every other to almost every game you might be playing against some version of the fusions team. So there's a reason for that, basically because the base Vegito got his free 7 stars. He has insane defensive buffs going on for the team. He's got great strike damage buffs for himself and Super Vegito, and this character just is kitted out the booty hole. You know, we don't need to spend too much time on him. He's just overwhelmingly, oppressively powerful on his particular team with the way that he's statted and just how powerful the team is in general. Coming to the number 2 spot, pretty much the same could be said about the transforming DBS Gogeta here. He's the number 2 because he got those insane defensive buffs from the base 7-star Vegito, and with Fusion's team just being so popular right now, he's capable of just doing ridiculous damage. He's got his mini lock-ins, his blast armor on his blue card, and again, just absurd nuking potential coming from this Gogeta. That is why they are in the number 1 and 2 spots, followed by the Super Saiyan 2 family Kamehameha Gohan. Son family still is probably the highest damage output team in the game, but because they don't have very good defenses and relatively no healing, you know, like team heals and stuff like that, and yeah, just their defenses are not very good. The fact that when Gohan squares up against Vegito, Vegito can just nullify and delete all of his buffs, which make Gohan the amazing character that he is in the first place. It really puts a dampening, pumps the brakes for the Son family team, if you will. So again, even though they probably are one of the highest damage teams in the game right now, they're just having a lot of competition with some of the more powerful, newer team metas. Next up, you'll see Cell back in the top rung now because the Androids team is fully functional, with 17 getting his buffs, the release of 14 and 15. Androids is actually in a better position than regeneration teams, which is why Cell is back on the top, because he is one of, if not the most powerful, at least damage-dealing android that you have. He's got an exceptional kit, great buffs and debuffs, so naturally, he is back on top. He only dropped off for a very little bit, you guys, while regeneration was suffering. Next up here, we have a debatable placement, but the Goten here, just because of how good he is in Son family, his extremely good synergy with Gohan and just that team in general, his ability to delete other characters, his great legendary finish ultimate arts technique, he's still barely holding on to a place in the super tier, but that very well might change soon if Son family doesn't get, you know, any come-ups, or if we don't get anywhere else to really use this Goten. You might see him start to drop off a little bit, but he is useful with Trinity as well, so he's not only restricted to Son family. Next up, we are dropping down to the Z tier. The newly buffed Android 17 has amazing defenses, and his kit is just significantly better now than what it was prior to his buffs. And with how relevant the Androids teams are right now, this is why he's taking an extremely high spot on the tier list. Again, if you haven't tried playtesting him and you have the ability to run the new Androids teams, I definitely recommend you try it out, because it's a nice break from the Fusions meta. I don't have 14 and 15, unfortunately, so I can't do a whole lot there. Next up, we have the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. He is a very specialty unit. You don't just throw him out into battle willy-nilly. You very specifically plan to use him in conjunction with his 5-second lock-in to guarantee kills, and then you can guarantee a second kill with a Rising Rush. Easily set yourself up in a 3v1 situation if you use him properly. But again, you don't just want to be throwing him out there. You want to use Rising Rush potentially with him, with the character being locked in, or his ultimate arts technique, or just strike chaining until you can guarantee that kill, and that's how you very specifically want to use this Vegeta. Now, Kaba becomes very much more valuable because of his new synergy with this Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and the new transforming Vegeta as well. So that can make this Vegeta even more of a killer. We'll go over that in a little bit though, you guys. Next up, the new transforming Vegeta functions very well on multiple teams beyond just the Vegeta team build. He can work on Trinity. He can work in conjunction with movies teams as well, although that might not be his strongest team there. But then just Saiyans in general, he's got a lot of flexibility, very good strike damage dealer, good blast armor on him as well for you to really frame trap and mess up your opponent. And he's just a very high damage dealer. Blue card damage does exceptionally good damage. And he's very, very good on, again, multiple different teams. With Kaba and the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, though, they really shine as a great team. Next up here, we have the Golden Frieza. Still probably one of, if not the best, burst damage dealing character in the game, especially if you're up against a team of Saiyans. He just does an absurd amount of damage, has a really good kit focused around dealing lots of damage, and he's got a great ultimate arts technique as well. He's the only character in the game that can hurt every single character on the bench without blowing himself up. Vegeta can do that as well, the Majin Vegeta, but he blows himself up, so that's not super helpful. Next up, we have the Super Saiyan God Blue Goku. He is an extremely tanky unit to start out all of your fights. He takes damage extremely well, heals with his green cards, just has a great kit, and as the battle goes on, he starts to kind of transfer into being a damage dealing unit instead of a tanking unit. He fits extremely well on God Key teams, San family teams, and that might be it for now, but he's a really, really good character, and again, I love playing with him. His Ultimate Arts card is extremely cool looking, does lots of damage, and the only thing that he really suffers against is matchups versus the new Android 14 and the Golden Frieza as well. Buhan also, he doesn't do really good in those matchups at all, so you do have to be conscious of that, but when you combo him with Whis, you can heal for days with this Goku, deal tons of damage. Just again, a very exceptional unit. Next on the list here, we have Android 14. Biggest drawback for him is that he's green, but he's a member of the newly revamped Androids team. He comes with double buffs on his Z ability. He's extremely powerful, you guys. Very good strike damage dealer, can apply feint, like 20% feint onto his red cards, and his blue card can feint as well, but very low chance on that. But he's just a really, really good strike damage dealer, and when synergizing with the Androids team, he is capable of doing a lot of work, you guys. Just very good unit. We're going to keep moving here as quickly as we can. We have Whis up next, integral member of the God Key team. He provides the extra green cards, which are heals for Goku. The Mysterious Staff ability he's got on his green cards, pretty dang good as well. Gives Vegeta more counters, and he synergizes extremely well with Beerus also. He's got really good damage passives, and he's your team healer as well for God Key. Probably the best EX unit in the game as of right now. I mean, he's placed in the Z tier for an EX unit. His stats generally rival the stats of sparking units also. And as long as you're not facing up against a blue unit, this Whis is capable of doing some pretty good combat damage also in most cases. So just very, very exceptional unit and part of an extremely functional team. I love this Whis card, you guys. I hope everyone was able to pull him, because sometimes the EX units can be relatively difficult to get your hands on. Next up, Ribrianne. Not much has changed with her. She's one of the most powerful female warriors you have in your arsenal. She's got the lock-in, which can lead to guaranteed kills. Then if you save your Rising Rush, that sets you up in that ideal 3v1 situation where most people just forfeit. So we all know why Ribrianne is so good. She's just holding relatively high value. Female Warriors team is falling off a little bit, but I do expect them to definitely be showing more love when we get stuff like Kefla and, that's gonna, Caulifla and Kale, alternate versions of their cards maybe, and then again, Kefla. So I do expect Female Warriors to come back around as well soon, but still a really good team, very functional. Next up, the Blue Gohan for the San family. Again, he is an extremely useful unit for that team. He does a lot of tanking for that team with his exceptionally good cover damage mechanics. He's got a good ultimate arts technique, supplies great synergy to Goten, and just a very powerful blue unit. Your best blue unit choice, I would say, for San family, besides the Super Saiyan Blue God Goku if you're using him. So one of those two is definitely the way you want to go. Next up, we have the Super Saiyan God, the red version of Vegeta, who is a yellow unit, but just God Red is what I meant. He is holding value because he's extremely useful on your God Ki teams. He can function on movies teams as well, but God Ki is 9 out of 10 where you're going to see him. He's got a pretty good combo breaking mechanic, and that you can combo it into blue cards, but not really anything else. And he's capable of really good strike damage. You got good Z abilities for your God Ki team, especially at 5 stars. But again, just holding value because he's such a good contributor to that team. Next up, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Does not do a whole lot of damage, but with his almost guaranteed feint on his ultimate arts technique and his stun on his green card that he can use to inflict on the enemy, he's a very, very good technical unit for your fusion teams. If you're squaring up against other Super Vegetos, you will end up usually bringing this Gotenks potentially over the red base Vegeto. So again, just very technical, very good unit for his feints and for his stuns, and he's got some pretty reasonable defenses as well for taking hits. So very, very useful member of your fusions team. Next up, the base Vegito, risen in value quite dramatically because he's got his 7 stars for free. He's got the triple Z ability buff. If you're running the Super Vegito on the team as well, he will be the very best bench partner you could possibly have. And he provides an absurdly good level of defensive buffs to that fusions team also. So before I had him way down in A tier, I did suspect that this would be the case now that he's got his 7 stars. He is an extremely valuable character, but you won't always end up using him. His damage is still not very great. His lock-in is extremely useful, but there may again be certain situations where you could potentially end up bringing the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and leaving Vegito behind. But he is necessary on the bench for your fusion teams, you guys. Very, very good character overall. Next up, we have the Blue Pod Frieza. He does really good blue card damage and maintains the blast armor that the Blue Final Form Cooler has as well. So he makes a good substitute for your Lineage of Evil teams, and especially if you're running more of a Frieza Force team in Lineage of Evil, that's where he will shine even a little bit more. But again, he's got really, really high blue card damage now, and since his buff, he's got the green card just like Final Form Frieza that works at full distance now. He's just a much better character all around than what he used to be. Moved all the way up from low grade or lower grade to the Z tier here. Very, very good character. If you're running Lineage of Evil or Frieza Force, I definitely recommend you try him out just for fun. Next up, Buhan, one of your best damage dealing and defensive units because of his bubble shield. For your regeneration teams, he combos extremely well with Cell to keep the regeneration team somewhat relevant even to this day. It is competitive, but it's not top meta at this point, you guys. Regeneration has fallen off a little bit in lieu of the God Ki and the fusion teams, honestly. Even Lineage of Evil and Frieza Force teams are doing really well right now. But Buhan, still an exceptional unit. I expect him to hold its value, potentially even increase in value as we see a potential Kid Buu unit coming soon, relatively soon. They're going to have to do it sometime sooner or later. So Buhan, very, very good unit. Good for the bubble shields, good for his blue card damage, good for the little bit of healing that he can give to himself, and he outputs a reasonable amount of damage just in general also. So again, exceptional unit with his good permanent buffs that he can give himself. Next up, Zamasu. We really don't need to spend a whole lot of time talking about Zamasu, but he is and was probably still one of the best, if not just now better, tanking units in the game. He works on God Ki, but doesn't give anything back to that team. He functions best on regeneration, but he also functions extremely well on future teams. And do not forget, you guys, that we are still going to see an upcoming Fused Zamasu and an upcoming... Sorry, the screensaver cut in. We will be seeing an upcoming Fused Zamasu and an upcoming Rosé. So future teams are going to be extremely relevant moving forward in the future, as well as God Ki. So I don't expect Zamasu to completely fall off and lose any type of crazy value anytime soon. Next up, DBS Broly. He's just dropping in value because the movies team's not super relevant. You can still use him on the Trinity team. He's just not as powerful as he once was, you guys. The blast armor did, the nerf to that did a little bit of damage to his value, and just his lack of a really, really sound team is another reason why he's losing a little bit of value. But still an exceptional unit with extremely high stats and extremely good kit. Just, again, team relevance is hurting him the most. And next up, we have Kaba, bring up the talent of Z-Tier specifically for his team building with the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and the Transforming Vegeta. He can do amazing things as a support unit. With those two Vegetas, I suggest you guys try it. Just me telling you is not going to be the same as you experiencing it for yourself. Next up, S tier here. We can start to fire through these ones a lot quicker here. There's not as many new units down here, but there's a few. There's a few changes. Definitely some stuff to go over. The GT Goku, again, exceptional blast damage dealing unit, functions extremely well on Trinity. Son family, he can work on that as well. Hopefully we'll have an upcoming GT team, and I'm sure he will have a place on it because he is, again, a very, very high blast damage dealing unit with a great kit that helps him do that even better. Next up, Bardock, leader for the Trinity teams. Not much to discuss with him. Trinity team is still relevant with additions like the Transforming Vegeta and the Super Vegito, so he is still holding value. By himself, his damage, his numbers really aren't as competitive as a lot of newer units, but because he provides those amazing crit buffs and crit chance buffs, crit damage buffs to all your Super Saiyan units, he's the best leader for that team still, the only leader for that team, and again, that's why he's holding his value. Ultimate Gohan, great member of your Son family teams, great member, even better, for your hybrids teams, also extremely functional as the green unit in Red Green. He's got the saves, he's still a good unit with stacking permanent buffs from his green cards, just like the Buhan, and just great overall unit, still very, very capable. Next up, we have the Cooler and Frieza combo. Arguably, they work in tandem with each other on Lineage of Evil teams because Cooler is your leader. But you can also sub him out for the Pod Frieza, run more of a Frieza Force build, and still works really well, you guys. You don't need the Cooler, but again, he is your ideal leader for Lineage of Evil teams. Lineage of Evil with the Golden Frieza on it, still a very relevant team, so they're holding some pretty good value here. They both got good kits also for dealing damage, respectively. Frieza with the green card to trap people in there and guarantee your next hit. So, just again, very good units and still relevant on a fairly relevant team. Next up, the Yardrat Goku, arguably a little bit of a difficult character to use, but he does complete the Legends Road teams. That's not really a meta team in terms of competitiveness, but it's an option for free-to-play players. He also functions best on the Holy Trinity again, and he's got some really interesting instant transmission teleport mechanics. So it does take, again, a little bit of finesse to get him to work right, but he is a pretty well-rounded unit overall. Currently probably the best Legends Road character in the game. So, relevant on some pretty decent teams and capable of some good things. Next up, we have the newly buffed Red Vegeta and the newly buffed Purple Vegeta. Much older units that were down in the low grade tier before have risen up to this level that you see them at now because of their just relevance on certain teams and their new stats. They're capable of actually doing some good damage now. Vegeta, the red Super Saiyan 1, functions best on Trinity or Vegeta family on the bench. Same thing kind of goes with the other Vegeta. He's not Super Saiyan, so no Trinity for him, but Frieza Force he works well on, or the Vegeta team build specifically. They're both, again, they're competent now. They're capable of being competitive, but they may not be the best choice for the respective teams and slots you're trying to fill. So that's where you might look a little bit higher in the list. But again, these are completely usable characters at this point. It's nice that they've been buffed a little bit. The purple Vegeta especially, he was really, really bad. The red Vegeta still lacks a little bit of health, but he does have the healing on the green card, and he is capable of doing some pretty good damage. So I do suggest you give them a try out if you've been sleeping on them for a while. Slug is next. Just very reliable blue strike damage dealing unit for your regeneration teams. Also functional on movies, but you won't see too many people running him there. And just with how regeneration is kind of falling off a little bit, he's lost a little bit of value himself. Next up, the yellow Son family Goku. He's just a great yellow unit for your Son family team. He provides great buffs for that team, helps make it work, but you can use other Gokus if necessary to get like that Goku trigger synergy for the other characters. However, this guy is still really good for dying and buffing Gohan and Goten. You just have to remember that characters like Super Vegito can remove those buffs if they play strategically. So that is important to note. Still a good character, fully functional. Next up, the EX frontrunner in your females teams. Exceptional EX character as well. Probably the second best EX character in the game at this point. And again, she's holding value because she does function on the starting lineup of your female warriors team. Green Broly next. Losing value again because movies team's not super relevant. You can use him on Trinity, but the GT Goku is arguably a better fill for that spot. So again, just Broly, he's a decent defensive unit because of his barriers and his cover swap in mechanics, but I don't know. He's not top tier at this point, you guys. Good choice, but you again probably have better choices, and again, team relevance is hurting him as well. Next up, we have two more members of the Lineage of Evil team, specifically the Chilled and the Cooler, Metal Cooler that is. They are both really good units. They do suffer from being kind of restricted to only being useful on Lineage of Evil, but they both perform extremely well on that team. I mean, you kind of run the Metal Cooler on movies or what, like Regeneration, I think he tags as, but not ideal, not ideal. Running him on Lineage of Evil, both of these units is really the only way to go with them at this point. They don't even function on Frieza Force, so no options there. Next up, the GT Vegeta. Still a good option for your Trinity teams, but losing a little bit of value because, again, we do need a relevant GT team. We're still waiting on that, but again, he's a great debuffing unit, capable of doing really good damage, and just mostly, again, only functional on your Trinity-based teams. Next up, Mai, one of your best female warriors, an amazing support, functions on Future as well in good circumstances like 5 stars or higher, but she just holding value because she is an exceptional female warrior with a great kit. Super Gogeta next. He is mostly just a bench on the Fusions teams. You don't even really use him on Trinity too much anymore, but he is still capable of holding his own in battle. His stats are okay. He can do reasonable work. There's just, again, better options for most teams where you would consider inserting him. But at 5 stars or higher, he's almost mandatory on the bench for your fusion teams. You guys, still usable, just losing value because, again, better options. The future Gohan here, or the pseudo one-armed Gohan, because he still has his limp arm, but he's still a really good unit, has similar buffs when he dies as the yellow Son family Goku we talked about a little bit ago. Just future team is not super relevant right now. You can use him on hybrids or Son family as well, but there's just, again, same to like the Gogeta, there's better options for placements on those teams. So again, he's still fully capable of being in battle. He's a great character. He's just not as good as maybe he once was. But that could all change again. When future teams get buffed again, I'm sure this Gohan will get some of his value back. Next up, Caulifla. She is a great female warrior, capable of doing really good strike damage. This is a great fill-in unit, especially because she gets buff damage versus, what, like Saiyans, Hybrid Saiyans, both, something like that. So, again, she is a really capable unit, and she's holding value. Universe 6 is still waiting on hit before it can really be a functional team. Maybe a playable Champa card as well. I mean, we have Beerus, so why not? So I do expect that Universe 6 will be a lot more relevant when we get Hit and Champa. So hopefully that'll be soon. I really, really want a Hit card, you guys. That might convince me to really get back in and play some more, because I love Hit. Super Saiyan 3 Goku next. One of your most reliable Saiyan bench units in the entire game. If you have him at 5 stars or higher, you get the strike damage buff and the blast defense. So he belongs on a bench that has a team with Saiyans on it. He belongs on the bench in pretty much every circumstance. And yeah, at least as long as he's 5 stars or higher. He's still capable in battle as well. But like many of the other units we've mentioned, on specific teams that are meta right now, there are better placements for the front line than what you'd put this Goku. So that's why he's lost a little bit of value, but again, invaluable bench character. Moving down to A, the Android 15 is here only because the Android 17 is arguably way better than the 15 for that purple spot on your Android's team. But he is still useful. He's got some permanent debuffs or something. I didn't pull him. I can't really run Androids. I don't have Cell anyway. But just based off of what I've fought against and how many times you see people using the 17 instead, based off how good he is, the 15 just kind of slides in right here. Again, still a new unit who's completely competitive, but you just have that way better option with 17 right here. Super Buu next, just falling down a little bit because, again, regeneration has lost relevance, and because when you do run regeneration, the ideal way to run it is usually a strike damage build with like Slug, with the Cell, and with the Super Buu being more blast heavy, he doesn't really have a great spot on the team. But you can definitely still bring him and use him. It's just Cell, Slug, and Zamasu is a little bit more ideal for your regeneration teams. But again, Super Buu probably going to gain more value when a Kid Buu shows up, because we can pretty much run an all Buu team, and that might be pretty freaking interesting. So I don't expect him to drop too much more in value than where he's at right now, you guys. Next up, Green Beerus. Just still not very good stats on him, but he is functional on the God Key team as your green unit now. He gets amazing synergy with Whis, which makes him a heck of a lot better, especially with his like diamond level equip or platinum, whatever it's called. I forget if it's diamond or platinum, but with that tier equipment that's rolled really well, potentially awakened, and Whis on the God Key team, this Beerus is usable. He's not amazing, but he is usable. So that's why he's elevated quite a bit. I mean, he's actually not terrible now, but you just don't want to get him stuck in any type of purple matchup because he'll get destroyed. Next up, Kaioken Goku and the Green Vegeta. We're honestly going to start firing through these a lot faster here, you guys, because I don't want this to take forever. And a lot of these units are older, but these units just struggle for placement on teams. They are bench units. The Green Vegeta, while really good, gets decimated by lots and lots of powerful purples. And again, they're just not relevant teams for them right now, but they are still extremely good units. You can fit them into Son family, Vegeta family, Frieza Force. You can still use them. So if you don't have every unit in the game, these guys right here are still perfectly viable options, y'all. Just keep that in mind. Nothing about A tier is really that bad. Just they're not as good as other newer, more shiny units. Next up here we have the God Ku. You have him as an option for your God Key teams. He is extremely good on the bench at 5 stars or higher with the health and crit boost, I believe, on him. And again, he is functional in combat. However, you'll generally run Whis over him in most situations because Whis is the better unit overall. If you don't have Whis, again, this is one of those situations, you can definitely sub the God Key Goku here and try and run that angle instead. Just your team will be a little bit incomplete, but it is functional. Again, he is mostly just a bench unit for God Key though. Gohan here, Glass Cannon, works okay on Son family, works okay in tandem with the Saiyaman 2, just not on a really relevant team at the moment. Same thing with Rildo. He doesn't team build very well other than on just red teams, and there's no GT synergy for him really at the moment, so he's just kind of dropped down a little bit. He once at one point was one of the only units that could kill Immortals and go right through the, the endurance passive, but we have plenty of other units like Vegito, Goten, Super Saiyan God Blue Vegeta, plenty of other units that can go through endurance now, so he's lost some of that uniqueness and value dropping off. Piccolo dropping off because Buhan is the better option on regeneration teams at the moment, and Piccolo doesn't really have a spot outside of that, but he's still a great tank and healer. Saiyaman 2, she's a frontrunner on your female warriors teams. She's extremely good, but just female warriors not ultra relevant right now. The EX versions of Beerus and Chilled, just a little bit worse than the sparking versions of themselves, but they can be used as replacements for them or additional bench characters in many of the same situations that you'd see the sparking versions of them. So just keep that in mind. Kamikolo come up in value because androids are super relevant right now, and he does really, really good boosted damage versus androids. So he's actually come up in value a little bit. Not a whole lot of good team placements for him at all, which is why he's still in A tier, even though he arguably is one of the better anti-androids units in the game. Janemba falling down a little bit, again, just because regenerations is not that relevant right now. Gotenks will never ever top Super Vegito for the top purple spot on fusions, so he is just a bench character on fusions for 5 stars and higher, unless you're going to try and run like a purple setup, but red with Vegito. I don't think that would be a very good idea, but just you'll always want to be using Super Vegito over Gotenks, which is why he's lower down here on the value. And then we got a whole bunch of older characters, you guys, that are just kind of, again, where they're at because of team relevance, blah, blah, blah. I don't really feel like going through every single one of these, but I guess we will. The Trunks, just future and hybrids. He's not very relevant right now. Super Saiyan 3 Red Goku, still functional, still good, but just doesn't have good team placements. Kale, good on female warriors, just waiting for Universe 6 to be relevant. This Vegeta is only a bench unit for your Super Saiyan teams, your Trinity teams right there. He's not very functional outside of that. This Goku is actually relatively functional as a Super Saiyan 2 kind of team build if you're kind of working that angle, or if you're trying to just have a defensive Saiyan. He's not terrible, but he's got a really, really bad Z ability. The EX Boo here, just kind of, again, your regeneration teams are better with a strike damage build, which is why Slug is higher in value, but he is one of the better EX units in the game that rivals Sparking, so he is still really good. Just more of a nuker than a strike damage dealer for sure. The Fury Broly, amazing free-to-play unit, just falling off because Movies teams are not super relevant right now. You could theoretically run him on Frieza Force as well, but just struggles for placement on teams. The Metacooler and the Lineage of Evil build is probably better overall. Gotenks here. I don't even use this Gotenks on my Fusions teams. If you have every single Fusion Warrior in the game, then there's not really a spot for this Gotenks, but he's not terrible, you guys. If you don't have the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, or you're missing another Fusions Warriors, he is functional on that team. Just for me personally, having all the Fusions Warriors, there's really no place for him, which is why he's one of the lower valued Fusion Warriors. Blue Android 18, still a really good anti-hybrid damage dealer and a good blue unit option for your androids teams. Actually, I think one of the only blue options for androids still, because the new ones are green and purple. So, yeah, the new Android 13, when he comes out, he really needs to be red or, I guess, potentially blue. But hopefully he's red. Androids need a really, really good red unit. But, yeah, she's just, kind of older, a little bit more dated. Still functional, but like a lot of these other units coming afterwards here, they're either just bench units or suffer from team placements. You got Turles, really only functions on purple, purple, red, or movies, just not super relevant. This guy right here is great on your future teams, but probably not as useful on hybrids. You could theoretically use him on Vegeta family too, I guess, but that's definitely not ideal. Krillin just lacks a good Super Warriors team. It'd be really nice if we had like Super Warriors as a usable tag, like with Piccolo, Yamcha, and Tien, maybe sparking versions of Yamcha and Tien that are actually really good. You know, maybe in the future, you guys, but not right now. Still a really good unit after his buffs, though, but just suffers for team placement. Pycon the same. Movies units, not super relevant right now. Bojack, movies units, not super relevant right now. They both are arguably still really good functional characters. They're just not very competitive these days. Goku Black, at the moment, is only a bench for your future teams. You'll never run him over the Future Perfect Cell. The Future Perfect Cell is just way better, but, you know, you'll still want Goku Black on the bench for that team. The EX-17, still a functional like EX that rivals some Sparkings, still really good on your Androids teams, especially on the bench with the double buffs that they give out, him and the purple EX-17, or 18, sorry, she's 18. But yeah, both of them still pretty good. Videl, alright, not ideal on the frontline squad of your female Warriors teams, but she is functional. The EX Trunks, good anti-regeneration unit, still capable of holding his own on future teams. Blue Fistku here, just doesn't really do a whole lot of competitive damage dealing, but he's alright at tanking. Again, just struggles for a spot on a team. One-Hand Spirit Bomb Goku, again, functions best on purple, red. Or movies, but just not super relevant at the moment. This Trunks is just waiting for more GT characters to have some GT synergy going on, because outside of that, he doesn't really have good team placement. Green Cooler has been replaced entirely on Lineage of Evil by the Green Golden Frieza. There's really no reason to run the Green Cooler over this Frieza right here, so that's why he's lost quite a bit of value. Next up, Chi-Chi, she gets stomped by all of the purple units in the game right now. It's just very dangerous for her. On female warriors, she's not ideal on the front lines, but she still can do the good damage to Son family units, so she still has some value, you guys. Bardock, just a strike damage buffer for any Saiyan-based teams. That's where all his value is coming from. He's not very competitive in battle right now whatsoever. Ginyu holding relevance because Frieza Force teams are not terrible right now. Frieza Force teams can do some decent work. I just don't think that they're anywhere near as good as Lineage of Evil teams. However, you can combo him with like the Golden Frieza at 5 stars, the new Blue Pod Frieza, the EX Blue First Form Frieza, and you can do some decent things with Frieza Force. Just still waiting on like an all-sparking version of the Ginyu Force, or even EX versions of some of the good Ginyu Force. It's like the Heroes Only is really hurting them. Next up, Android 16, just worst damage dealing unit in the game in a lot of regards. His damage output is terrible, but his defenses are insanely good. Still, probably you're not going to end up using him on your Android teams though. Pan, just losing value. She's alright on the Son family as a bench, but you have many better options to use in the active spot. She's okay for female warriors, but again, she's not ideal. She's just an option, so she's lost a lot of value. Next up, the Heart Virus Goku. Even though he was buffed, you guys, he's still not very good. You have way better options than him for pretty much any team that you might be running. He is usable. He can do damage. He can cancel buffs. He is capable of doing some work, but he's just probably the most underwhelming of all of the recent buffs. Went to the Goku right there. Like, he still hurts himself, which is to be expected, but they didn't put in a lot of stuff to really make you want to use him. Now, he is a good quirk character if you need like stuff, certain challenges like that Rising Rush challenge. There are still certain like PvE situations where you might consider using him, but overall, I still don't really think he's super competitive or his buffs were really that good. Boo, maybe he'll value. The Fat Boo is next. Maybe his value will go up when we have the all Boo team, but there's no way you'll ever run this Fat Boo over Buhan on your regeneration teams. It's just, there's no reason to do that, which is why his value is insanely low. Even Piccolo is better than this Boo, so you can really only exploit the Boo's lock-in. That's the only really good quality about him. He's got a heal, but Piccolo's heal is better, so just B tier. This Vegeta, again, always struggled for placement even since the day he came out. He's just kind of been a really super average, kind of subpar character. He is usable now, maybe a little bit on the Vegeta team, but Super Saiyan God Blue Vegeta is just infinitely better. So he's just not very good at all, really. Next up, we have the EX-18. She is not quite as good as the Strike counterpart, or I guess more defensive counterpart that she has in the 17. She's kind of blast-oriented. She's not really bad at all. She's definitely usable, but you would most likely want to be running the Android 15, or even better, the Android 17. But because both of them are a thing, that's why her value is pretty low. Dabura, there's no Majin tag. Blue teams right now are a mess if you're just trying to run like color-specific blue teams. Dabura, not very good. Never really was that great, but just low value. Majin Vegeta, still super low value because of the debuffs he puts onto your own team. If he didn't have that, he would be way higher in the list, you guys. Arguably way higher. But because he hurts your own team, that's a major negative, you guys. There's way better options for a lot of red units, a lot of red spots on teams, so that's why his value is very low. DKP, you have the perfect cell for regeneration. There's no reason you would ever use DKP over this cell unless you don't have cell, in which case he's not really a good fill-in. Yamcha next, just a quirk character that's all about his passives. The only problem is they're kind of hard to pull off in PvP because people are going to be expecting that when they see him in the field because his stats aren't really that great and there's no Super Warriors team for him. This is kind of just where he ends up. Bulma next, she is just not ideal for your female warriors. You have Brienne as an extremely better option, and then even the Blue 18 is a better option. And again, that's pretty much why her value is so low. There's no reason to run her over Brienne as that blue choice on your female warriors. I guess you could potentially run her on like a Dragon Ball only team, but that's not meta at this point. Definitely not fully developed. So that's kind of why her value is super low. Just struggles for team placement. This red cell, completely non-competitive, but he does make for a good strike damage buffer on regeneration teams. But again, stats, just non-competitive. Same thing with the purple Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, just non-competitive stats. Struggles for team placement. The Goten and the Trunks are still a little bit usable, but they have like no defenses whatsoever, and they will get wiped by any of their color counters that they match up against. And there's not really a good team to put them on. But in certain cases, when they're over 5 stars, they can still make good bench units. Same for this Trunks, pretty much restricted to like a bench unit only role. He is non-competitive in combat. Increases the cost of his own cards, and really doesn't get a whole lot of benefits from that. His stats, not so great. And this Goku right here, just Dragon Ball team's not really a thing. Legends Road team is a thing, but it's not super competitive. He's not very good. His stats aren't that great. And in every single team besides Legends Road, you have a better option than him. Probably 2 or 3 better options than him, which is why, again, his value is very low. The low grade, a lot of characters have left low grade from the buffs and moved up a little bit. But we still have, what, like 7 or 8 characters down here. Hercule, the original Red Goku, Red Trunks, the IT Goku, Spirit Bomb from the shop Goku, the Blue Broly, the Yellow 18, and the Yellow Kid Gohan are completely non-competitive in terms of bringing them to battle. They will get decimated even on color advantage situations in most cases. However, they can, like the Red Goku or the Yellow Kid Gohan, they can still make good bench units. The Yellow 18, if she's highly starred, can be a good bench for your female warriors. So in some cases, some of these units can still be good bench units, but outside of that, they are completely worthless almost. You'll only run them in like a troll team. So I did post this image on my Twitter. Got like a couple hundred likes, I think. So if you would like to download it yourself, definitely visit my Twitter and you can snag this image for yourself. This is like the 6th tier list that I've done here. So let's move on to the team guides. We can usually get through this a little bit quicker here. So let's jump over to the team template here, and I will get myself out of the way for this part. And I guess we can get rid of a couple other things here like that. And the image slideshow, we'll get rid of that too. All right, so we just have the raw image here. We go over this pretty quickly here. So regeneration team hasn't really changed at all since we saw Buhan as the newest addition. Not really too much to go over there in the top left up here. Females, same situation. We haven't seen any new females added to the game in quite a while, so that team meta right there has not changed. You've got your ideal starters for both those teams. You can kind of see how it flows here. Fusion is next. This team as well hasn't changed since the last time I did the team guide. However, you could argue that instead of this Vegito, that the Go tanks would be a core unit. It really just depends on what you match up against in battle. Either one of them could make a good core. Again, just depends. LOE hasn't changed either, but I did make sure to add the Pod Frieza as now a viable option for this team. And I didn't have the EX Chilled on here before, but he is an option also. So I just added them on there. So I guess maybe it's changed just a little bit, but yeah, not too much. New Trinity hasn't really changed either. I still think the ideal way to run it is probably this core you see on the left here. But I did add that the newly buffed Super Saiyan Red Vegeta and the new Transforming Vegeta, they're both options for this team as well. So this optional is just going to keep growing until it's not going to fit any more units in here, you guys, because there's going to be plenty of Super Saiyan 1 units in this game pretty much all the time. Movies teams, relatively unchanged as well. I added the 2 androids and the new Transforming Vegeta because they do tag as Movies units. However, you probably don't want to use them on the Movies team. Future, completely unchanged. Son family, completely unchanged. But I did add Super Saiyan Blue Goku down here, so he is an option on there. He was not pictured there before. I deleted the purple-red team format up here to squeeze in the new Team Vegeta. You'll see the new Transforming Vegeta, Super Saiyan Blue, and Kaba. This is an amazing team right here, you guys. It's kind of like an off Trinity. It works very similarly. You have this lock-in from the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, which can definitely kill guarantee. If you've swapped into him from Kaba, he'll have really nice damage numbers. And then you can Rising Rush immediately after that and quickly set yourself up in a 1 versus 3, or in your favor, a 3v1 situation. So this is an extremely good team, you guys. You do have some couple different optional Vegetas based off of if you need different colors. And then your bench is going to be almost identical to your Trinity bench or just any kind of generic Saiyan team bench. You have those options right there. Android's team has probably changed the most since the last update here. They are fully viable. You have a new core of the Perfect Cell, who's back on the top of his game. The Green 15 is a great fainting and strike damage dealing unit. And the new Purple 17, or newly buffed Purple 17, is extremely relevant on this team build as well. Just the Z ability buffs and synergy you get on this team are just absurdly high, you guys. So that is why you'll see this as a up-and-coming team here. I still think we're kind of waiting on Android 13 a little bit, but I definitely expect, you know, with Super 17, possibly Transforming 13, other androids coming in the future, this team is definitely going to be one to keep your eye on. Hybrids, completely unchanged, and God Key as well, completely unchanged. These are your most meta teams at the moment in the game, you guys, but not every team. There are other teams you can run that I just could not fit on this page here, and that's just kind of how it is. I do have this image up as well on my Twitter. I pinned it to my Twitter account. So if you guys would like to download that for yourselves, it's there. It's also in the Facebook group. All that stuff is linked in the pinned comment down below. I know I haven't really been making a whole lot of videos for this game recently, so I don't even know how many views this is honestly going to get, and it seems like a lot of people are kind of tired of Legends right now as well. So definitely let me know how you feel down in the comments. Are you kind of bored and tired of the game? I know I kind of have been a little bit burnt out. I have zero plans of quitting anytime soon, but I've just kind of had to relax on it a little bit, you guys. So I do want to kind of expand the channel, pick up some new games, and try out some new stuff. I know the views on it might not be that great, but if you see something that potentially interests you, you know, feel free to let me know down in the comments whether you are supportive of that or not. But I don't know, you guys, just try to expand and branch out a little bit. Channel probably won't survive on just Legends alone, but I don't know, maybe it can. I'll probably get too bored of Legends, but for now, we've got this video out. I'm going to put this out, you guys. If you enjoyed it, consider leaving a thumbs up on it, help spread it out. Maybe some people will decide to look at it. And if you have any thoughts, opinions that differ from mine, any other team builds, again, thoughts on characters, definitely leave them down in the comments below. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I'd love to see you again on future videos. Sorry if this one was a little bit too long for you guys, but So either some people like them, some people don't. There's a lot of information to cover, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And again, if you're new around here, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell. I will see all of you guys again very soon with more videos. I haven't gone anywhere, you guys. Just trying to figure out my next move, I guess you could say. So, again, we'll see you again soon. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Peace out, and have a great day, y'all. Later.